It's been a little over 2 weeks since Cowan Simulations released their Cessna CH-1 Skyhook for Microsoft Flight Simulator. It is a very odd-looking but historically significant helicopter. Now that I've had a chance to fly it and put it through its paces, let's take a look, and also take a look at City Update 10 Honolulu. Right off the bat, you'll notice that it's got a very common panel with other Cessna aircraft, and you can kind of tell that they might have reused some of their parts bin in the development of this helicopter, but it's got pretty much everything you need. One notable exception is that there is no VSI or vertical speed indicator, which is something that you use quite a bit in helicopter flying, especially VFR helicopter flying. So that is something that is missing from the panel, but it's not missing because the developers didn't include it. The actual original aircraft never had one. And it's not that big of a deal not having one. You just really have to pay attention to your altimeter when you're descending, so you don't end up descending too quickly and in a situation where VRS could develop. That aside, the panel looks beautiful. The modeling and texturing is a step up from all the other offerings from Cowan Simulation. This is probably one of their best helicopters to date that they've released. And this is a 2020 release. It was not released for 2024 yet. However, I am flying it in 2024 and everything works great. So I didn't have any issues at all with it running in 2020 or 2024. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Gonzo or the Snorks. It's very strange looking. Well, the CH-1 was developed from the Siebel S4 that Cessna purchased the rights to, or bought the company back in the late 40s or early 50s. And the first prototype for the CH-1 flew in 1953. So this is a very early design for helicopters, and it was achieving a lot of, first for performance reasons or for performance variables at that time in that era. And it was competing directly with the Bell 47, and in most cases it outperformed the Bell 47. But it had a lot of significant engineering challenges that had to be overcome. And it was the first IFR rated helicopter ever certified by the FAA, and it actually still holds an altitude record to this day for a piston powered or reciprocating engine helicopter. So it's significant in the era that it's from, in the engineering that was involved, but it was not commercially successful. There were only about 50 of these made, and Cessna actually reacquired almost all of the airframes and destroyed them, and then they revoked the type certificate as well, so you can no longer, even if you did have one of these, you could no longer legally fly it. Now, it is possible that there might be some airframes out there hidden in a barn somewhere that's unknown, They did say, or it is shown in all the information that I could find, that Cessna acquired most of the airframes. So that did not say that they reacquired all of them. There is one known example at Fort Novacell in Alabama. They have one in storage. It's not in flight-worthy condition, and that is the only known example of the Skyhook still around, and that was the Army test version. I think it was the CH-1 Seneca, but that is the only known airframe at this time. Even though this helicopter significantly outperformed the Bell 47, it had a lot of challenges. There were some handling challenges and some design deficiencies that had to be overcome that really made it not competitive. So it does have a good weight balance because the engine in the front offsets the tail boom, but the transmission being underneath made it harder to maintain, and it was generally more expensive by about a fifth the cost. So at the time, these numbers are pretty significant, but at the time I think a Bell 47 was around $67,000 and a Cessna Skyhook was closer to $90,000. So a fairly significant change or increase in cost to go with the Cessna Skyhook for an Army contract. But either way, it didn't meet all of the specifications that were required as far as ease of maintenance and handling capabilities. And even though it outperformed other helicopters of its time, I think what mostly led to its non-success as a commercial helicopter was that it came at a time when turbine helicopters were really starting to be what was going to be the helicopter of the future. Obviously, with a turbine, you get a lot more power for a lot less weight, and it didn't make sense to continue the development of a piston or reciprocating engine helicopter, so that pretty much stopped the development there. And while we're flying around Honolulu, you can just see the new update is just phenomenal. The terrain looks amazing. There are some areas that aren't perfect, but we get that with pretty much every photogrammetry area, so it's really a step up from what was there before. And I don't know if you've had a chance to fly in Hawaii prior to City Update 10, but this area was really lacking, and it is significantly better now with City Update 10. Although I definitely spotted a helipad on the edge of this crater, and from higher up I could see that it was a clearing that was designed as a helipad, but as you get closer I might have to learn how to use the SDK so that I can go in and remove the vegetation, because obviously the LOD loading from far enough away, there was no vegetation on it and I was able to spot the helipad, but then as I got closer to it, it was covered in ferns and palm trees. So that's something I might have to actually go in. This was not something that was modeled into the terrain. This is something that the photogrammetry pass caught, and it looks like it's probably a spot that you can hike to, but it's a helipad that probably gets used in tour flights. And the flight model that Cowansim has provided with this helicopter is excellent. It flies like a helicopter. You really have to pay attention to torque and managing the helicopter at slow speeds. There's obviously no flying example to rate this one against, but there is a significant amount of data available to be able to create this flight model. and it flies smooth. It's a very nice handling helicopter, and it gets up to speed and can actually overspeed very quickly, which is something that the actual helicopter was known for. That was one of the issues that was of concern to the Army and why they didn't consider it for contract, because due to using the Cessna fuselage shape, it actually had a lower drag coefficient, which typically is a good thing because you can get higher top speeds, but it made the helicopter harder to handle. But you can feel that in this flight model. It's very easy to overspeed this helicopter. And in my research, one of the cool things that I did learn is that Cessna actually did win a contract from the government to explore and research boundary layer understanding on a helicopter blade. So I don't know how many people are familiar with laminar flow or what vortex generators do on fixed-wing aircraft wings, but the lead engineer for this project, actually, they had one prototype that they were working on trying to control the boundary layer on the rotor, and it actually was able to produce an aircraft that could go significantly faster. They didn't have enough power to really see how far it could go, but aerodynamically it was able to go at higher speeds just because they were able to control the boundary layer on the airfoil of the rotor. Now, that was something that never got put into production, and the challenges around it I couldn't imagine just because of the complexity of the design, but the engineering is fascinating. Around Honolulu, the detail is really quite amazing. The stadium and highway interchanges are very detailed. There are some areas that are flattened a little too much that is typical with the handcrafted airports. Like I noticed at Honolulu International, the airport flattened some buildings. There were some of the photogrammetry that should probably have been replaced, but it didn't get replaced. And the same as we approach and go past the harbor, you can see like the port looks phenomenal, the stadium looks phenomenal, the gantry cranes have a ton of detail and they're no longer just blob objects, but at Ford Island and Ford Field there's flattening again, but it's still a significant step up of what was there before, because prior to this update, Ford Field was pretty much all flat with terrible satellite imagery, and the water had a lot of artifacts in it as well. So this is really a lot better than what we had previously. The points of interest are still handcrafted models, though, like the Arizona Memorial, that is a handcrafted item. The stadium is a handcrafted item. The hospital is a handcrafted item. But here you can see on Ford Island, you can see some of the flattening, but you can see some of the buildings that have been maintained, and some of the photogrammetry has been maintained. But it looks so much better than it did. And it is a step up from where it was. It really brought a lot of life to the update, but I would still like to see this area enhanced as a point of interest just because it is so significant to the area. And coming into this field, you really get a sense of what it is like to fly this helicopter. It did not want to slow down, so you really have to plan your approaches. But once you get it below 40 knots, it's much easier to get it to slow down. But it was a very nice flying helicopter. It handles very well, and it flies like a helicopter. So there was no odd behavior. I didn't have any moments where it didn't do what I expected it to do, and I really enjoyed flying it. One of the other great things about it too is there's a lot of animations that really bring it to life and add to the immersion. Like the skid flex is animated really well. The stabilizer, the horizontal stabilizer on the tail, it actually does what it's supposed to do. While you're in a hover, it's near vertical, and the downwash of the rotor actually would feather the horizontal stabilizer, but then as you got into forward flight, it would flatten out and become a usable control surface. So, and it was connected to the cyclic at that point. So that actually is modeled, and it does show correctly when you're in the different phases of flight. Among other things too, like being able to open the doors and hear the different sound as you open the door that's much louder, you can hear more of the rotor. And the same with the bottom vent windows. Those also open. It's a very well done helicopter. It's very interesting looking is the best way that I can say. It's not conventional at all, but it is a very important piece of the history of helicopter design and engineering. And I am so glad that they brought it to the sim. Also very true to life, it does not have a rotor brake, so it takes a minute for the rotors to spool down. Thanks for watching, be safe, be kind, and I'll see you in the next video.